3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of Grok Talk, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
Grok Talk.
Hey, welcome back. Told you it was a short break. We went right through the end of that segment, right into the beginning of the next one, but that's okay because Bill came early and we already heard from him. So, but we have some new discussion to engage in right here on Grok Talk, brought to you by GraniteGrok.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Just look for Granite Grok, and you can listen to this in past programs on Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, and iHeartRadio. Hey, Bill. Good morning.
Steve, good morning again.
Good to have you here. Thanks for coming on relatively short notice, I guess we could say. It's usually how we wrestle things around here. So,
Sure.
Interesting week. You get some media attention.
Well, obviously we weren't trying to get that attention.
I know.
What we're trying to do is have a discussion among activists, conservative activists, to see if there's an alternative to Kelly Ayotte. I think it's generally recognized among conservative activists that there's a great deal of disappointment in her. She is yet another example of someone who is a campaign conservative and then becomes a liberal when she goes to Washington. We can go down the list of issues that are touchstone issues for Republicans. And she gave us assurances that her principles would lead to the correct votes on those issues, and she hasn't been there. And moreover, her votes have been shocking. So, what I had asked is to get together with some groups of activists and see if there's a general understanding of that and a willingness to step up with time and financial resources and hopefully a good candidacy to provide conservatives in New Hampshire, libertarians in New Hampshire, an alternative. Mm-hmm. So we had a meeting last week, and it sure seems there is.
Well, I was invited. I didn't have a chance to go, but I know Skip got there, and that was good. Good. At least
Mike was there.
At least one of us.
And Mike got there,
and
the 603 Alliance was represented there because we have a keen interest in statewide races after the presidential primary.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And what we did learn is there's a way to campaign in New Hampshire. What you do is you send out emails and say, secret, confidential. And that way it'll hit all the front pages of the newspapers, and we'll have the television station outside with cameras and all that.
It was crazy. You know what? Nobody said in the email either anything about a secret meeting. It was exactly
we should have
phrased.
papered over the windows just to drive them crazy.
Well, we waved. We had everybody turn around, the 60-plus people, just go like this to the guys that were filming out the window. It was quite funny.
Yeah, but, I remember back in 2010 when Kelly Ayotte was first running, and I think if I remember correctly, Owen LaMontagne was in the race.
Mm-hmm. And
Bill Binney was.
Bill Binney and Jim Bender.
Jim Bender. And so at one point, Kelly Ayotte, I was state rep in my third term, I think, at the time, and she called up and said, Bill, will you endorse us? And I said, Kelly, I don't think you're conservative. I do think that Ovid is more demonstrably conservative on the right issues than you are. You've been an attorney general, and we've come to you time and again and asked you to address voter issues, voter fraud issues, and you've not given us the time of day. So I don't have great confidence if you go down there. But if you do get the nomination, I'll support you. And ultimately she did, and ultimately I did support her. But I didn't support someone who would vote to bring back crony capitalism in the form of the Export-Import Bank, which she did. I didn't vote for someone who would vote to extend the debt ceiling time and time again without putting any conditions of fiscal responsibility on it. And that's disappointed a lot of us, those type of votes.
Yeah, my first choice was Ovid, and my second choice would have been Jim Bender, who's a great businessman.
Sure.
And Bill Binney was tarred with a somewhat liberal brush brush during that election, but my dealings with him since have shown that he's actually a pretty decent conservative himself.
He is. He's been a successful businessman and built up several businesses, and therefore he understands, I think, what allows for success in our society. What Kelly Ayotte understands is go become an attorney, get somebody to appoint you as attorney general, and then have a bunch of rich people finance your race, and tell the voters you're going to be a conservative when you get down there, and then become a more liberal vote than look at Orrin Hatch and Senator Graham and Senator McCain.
Yeah.
If you look at the Conservative Review's scorecard, she is among the worst of Republican senators down there.
She signed on with the establishment. It was clear. But for New Hampshire voters, all those things that you talked about and other votes that have been very, very bad for small governance and constitutional
states' rights
stuff. But you know what killed me the worst is look at New Hampshire. I think we're in the top 3, if I'm not mistaken, with energy costs here in this state. I mean, we're getting killed. It's killing job creation like crazy. And here we have our senator going up there and supporting this latest EPA, bloated clean air initiative.
The Clean Power
What
Act,
the heck is that? I mean, if there is anything that should be concerning New Hampshire, her constituency right now, is how much is that going to cost them?
I'm going to point to something else that's related, not just energy. There's a scheme in D.C. I voted for it before I voted against it.
Yeah.
Only they always tell you they voted against it. And I'm listening to Ted Cruz's book right now when I go on my walks, and it's a good book. And he mentions the absolutely venomous reception he got when he said in an organizing meeting about unanimous consent over a debt ceiling bill a couple of years ago, where essentially what the scheme is you vote to allow the Democrats to control the outcome. And then you can vote against the bill because the Democrats have won. And that was a particularly egregious case, which only took one vote to stop that happening, and then it makes your vote accountable because you have to be roll called. But
wow.
But cloture's the same thing.
Yeah.
And you will, if you look at Kelly's missives over the past few years, she will tell you frequently she voted for cloture because she believes it deserves debate, and then she can say she voted against the bill which passed, which is what the Democrats wanted.
Yeah, it reminds me, and I think this is something that people have to watch out for legislators, because it reminds me of one instance when I was talking to a Senate president in New Hampshire, in trying to convince the Senate president we should support a constitutional amendment to make unconstitutional a direct tax on wages and salaries, an income tax. And he said, Bill, if we do that, then we've lost a campaign issue. We get to tell the people we'll vote against it all the time. I said, well, how does that serve the people of New Hampshire? Because at one of those times they're going to get a majority vote. We'll have a governor who will sign it into law, just so you can get elected a few more times and have a campaign issue.
Wow.
And so I think I agree. We do see that among legislators, and to the extent, and Kelly Ayotte has been one of them, we find that happening in Washington. That's a disqualifier for continuing in office.
That particularly says in terms of the of even the State House. So we talk about citizen legislators. We talk about the pittance that they're paid is $100 or if it's $200 now. And aside from their special plate on their cars, they really get nothing else. So what is it that would cause a Senate president to want to be reelected over and over and over? There has to be other forms of payback in order to make it worth their while to maneuver like that, to actually be more worried about their own electability than doing the job right.
It's access to status and power. It's one thing to say you're not getting a salary up there, or you're getting a good salary in Washington, but it's another thing to say you either have status or you have power or you won't. I've seen up in New Hampshire, where we do get paid $100 a year, people hang on to positions of power in desperation because they want to feel they have the status and the influence, and that they're deferred to. symbolic of that are the license plates, and it is kind of sad, but it's not. It's sad and it's very dangerous that people would put themselves in those positions just so they can continue to control the conversation, control people's lives. They enjoy that. Mike.
So behind the scenes, during the last Senate run, there were people that were asking me all the time, why do these senators spend? I mean, the guy that I ran against, Booton, ended up spending like $190,000 for the race, right? Mm-hmm. Why would you have people back to that amount of money? And it's a good question. If there wasn't some sort of kickback, they kept saying it can't just be for the license plate. And you know what? I really couldn't answer to it. But logic does tell us it has to be more than just the license plate, doesn't it?
It's the status and the influence, as Bill said.
Okay.
And why would those backers put that much money in? The answer is, like the Clinton Global Graft Initiative, it's what they can buy with it.
Right.
Sure.
Which is his vote.
But the Senate doesn't get anything backdoor.
The state Senate, or
yeah.
We saw that particular individual get a job paying $180,000 a year running the lobbyist group. After he tried to do it while he was Senate president. Then he tried to continue in that while he was
Bragdon,
state senator, and then ultimately he left the Senate and continued in that job.
Right.
Look at these positions on the state level can be important. On the federal level, they are very important.
Right.
When you have a federal budget that is, $1 trillion and more, clearly
$3.5 trillion in some years.
Yes, clearly you're going to have folks who are going to pay to have their candidate win. One of the things, I've talked with folks in Washington about this upcoming race with Kelly Ayotte, and one of the things I asked them is they said, she's probably going to lose if she's primaried. Will there be a lot of money that comes into the race for or against her? Well, among the things I've been told is that she's Mitch McConnell's lieutenant. A Senate majority leader can bring to bear tens of millions of dollars on a race. Reach out to the K Street community, reach out to the lobbyists, and tell them, this is my lieutenant who is being challenged. And she will have tens of millions of dollars to come into the race. And so, no one has stepped up to this point, but if someone does step up, they're going to have a lot of activist support in order to do it.
Right. But let's look at the other reason. We can say, Kelly's not being a conservative to us. That's not the issue. There's something else. There's another dynamic at work here. We say that New Hampshire has a weak governorship, and it does in some ways. The governors can't really propose anything; they can only veto. And it's been really interesting to me to watch the stepping stone here as the mostly Democrat governesses have stepped on to the Senate, because the U.S. Senate is more powerful, carries more clout, more status, more money, more kickbacks than anything they can get in the state. And it's going to happen again. And it doesn't matter very much whether she gets primaried. She will lose. She will be replaced by a Democrat if she's not primaried, because Hassan has got good base, good support, and the Democrats are absolutely desperate to get some pieces of the Senate back under their control.
I agree with you entirely. As I've talked to folks in Washington about her race, for example, in the media, yesterday I gave an interview to NBC News, for example, and as I talked to those who are thinking of funding this race one way or the other, I point out the fact that she has lost. She decided, mistakenly, to try to make a play for liberal votes that she would think would go to Maggie Hassan, the Democrat governor who's going to run against her. And as a consequence, she's lost a good portion of her base. It doesn't take much, and we saw what happened in the congressional race with Frank Ginta a couple of cycles back, in which a libertarian by the name of Brendan Kelly went in and got, you folks probably remember better than I, was it 5 or 6%?
He got enough votes to keep him from winning.
And that was the amount of votes he received, which were clearly votes that would have gone to a Republican candidate, exceeded the difference between Congressman Ginter and his challenger. And that's going to happen with Kelly Ayotte. If you look at the polls, they're within 1 or 2 percentage points.
She's going to get Scott Browned. She's going to get Walt Havenstein.
More than that, I don't know if I'm able to mention who, but a libertarian group is willing to put up candidates to suck out those few percent to make sure she loses because she's not considered worthy of representing.
Which to me would be a strategy if there wasn't a clear choice that a constitutional conservative could make in the primary. But after that, if there is a choice, that's not a good strategy.
Well, I think it's a foregone conclusion that Ayotte's going to lose. I think the base is going to do exactly what they did 2 years ago, the last election cycle. They're going to work hard, and the discussions have already started. Yep. There will be a write-in candidate, whether it is a living person or not. There will be a choice, and it will be somebody other than Kelly Ayotte, and the base won't vote for her. I can tell you that right now. She cannot win this election in this state. So we're going to take a quick break and come back. We can talk about that some more. This is Grok Talk. Stay tuned.